You know what keeps me up at night? It's not the standings. It's not even the next game on the schedule. It's thinking about what this Lakers team could become. And right now, sitting here at my desk, looking at everything that's unfolding across the league, I can't shake this feeling that something massive is brewing in Los Angeles. Welcome back to Lakers News Fan Report, the place where you get the most updated news, the hottest takes, and the inside scoop on our beloved purple and gold. If you're not subscribed yet, hit that button right now, because what I'm about to break down today might just change everything you thought you knew about this season's championship aspirations. Let me paint you a picture. 18 wins, 7 losses. Third in the Western Conference. This isn't some fever dream. This is our reality right now. When the season started, everyone had expectations, sure, but I don't think anyone truly grasped just how dominant this trio of LeBron James, Luka Doncic, and Austin Reeves would be together. The chemistry has been electric. The execution has been surgical. And DeAndre Ayton fitting into that front court rotation. That's just been the cherry on top. We're watching a team that's not just meeting expectations. We're watching a team that's redefining what this franchise can be in the modern era. But here's where it gets interesting, and I need you to stay with me on this because what I'm seeing across the league right now has my mind racing with possibilities. Championship teams aren't built in comfort zones. Championship teams are built by front offices willing to make bold decisions, by organizations willing to take calculated risks when the opportunity presents itself. And when I look at where we are right now, when I see the pieces we have, the assets we control, and most importantly, the window we're operating in with LeBron still playing at an elite level, I can't help but ask myself, are we one move away from being unstoppable? Think about it. Our depth is solid. Our starting five can compete with anyone in the league on any given night. But in the playoffs, when rotations tighten, when every possession matters, when the margin between winning and losing becomes razor thin, you need more than solid. You need exceptional. You need players who have been there before, who understand the pressure, who can deliver when the lights are brightest. And that's exactly what has me so fired up about what could potentially happen before the trade deadline. Now, I want you to imagine something with me for a second. Close your eyes if you have to. Picture our current roster, the way LeBron orchestrates the offense, the way Luka can take over games in the fourth quarter, the way Austin has developed into a legitimate two-way threat. That's already a nightmare matchup for any team in the league. But what if, and I'm asking you to really think about this, what if we could add another dimension to that attack? What if we could bring in someone who has championship DNA, someone who has proven time and time again that they can perform on the biggest stage, someone who already has chemistry with not just one but two of our core players? The trade deadline is approaching, and across the league, teams are making calculations. Some are going all in, some are waving the white flag and planning for next season. And then there are teams stuck in that uncomfortable middle ground, teams that thought they'd be contenders but are facing the harsh reality that their current construction just isn't working. Dallas is one of those teams. Despite having talent, despite having pieces that should theoretically fit together, they're struggling. They're disappointed. And when disappointment sets in, that's when front offices start answering phone calls they might have ignored a month ago. Here's what's fascinating about the current landscape. The Mavericks are sitting on a roster that hasn't lived up to expectations this season. They've got players who are drawing interest from contending teams, and the whispers around the league are getting louder by the day. Now, there's one name in particular that keeps coming up in these conversations, a name that might sound familiar to Lakers fans, a name that represents both incredible talent and undeniable risk. But before we get there, let me ask you something. How far are you willing to go to win a championship this year? Are you the type of fan who wants to play it safe, run it back with what we have, and hope it's enough? Or are you the type of fan who believes that when you have a legitimate shot at a title, you do whatever it takes to maximize that opportunity? I've been covering this team for years, and I've learned one thing about championship. Windows. They don't stay open forever. LeBron isn't getting younger, even though he's still defying Father Time on a nightly basis. Luka is in his prime right now. This is the moment. This is when you have to be aggressive. This is when you have to look at every possible avenue to upgrade your roster, even if it means making moves that might seem unconventional or risky on the surface. So let's talk about what's actually on the table here. The Lakers have assets. They have players that other teams covet. Rui Hachimura has been fantastic in the starting lineup, providing that versatility on both ends of the floor. Jared Vanderbilt brings defensive intensity and energy. Jake LaRavia has shown flashes of potential. And of course, we have draft capital, those precious first-round picks that can sweeten any deal. The question isn't whether we have the pieces to make a significant trade. The question is whether we're willing to part with them for the right player. And that brings me to the player I've been dancing around this entire time. The player who could change everything. The player who, despite currently being sidelined with an ACL injury, represents one of the most talented guards in the entire league. I'm talking about Kyrie Irving. Yes, you heard that right. Kyrie Irving to the Lakers is not just some wild fantasy. It's a legitimate possibility that's being discussed, and the more I dig into it, the more sense it actually makes. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Kyrie is injured. He tore his ACL last season and doesn't have a timeline for return yet. Why would we trade valuable assets for a player who can't help us right now? And those are fair questions, legitimate concerns that any rational fan should have. But let me explain why this could be the exact type of move that separates good teams from championship teams. First, let's talk about fit. Kyrie Irving isn't just any star player. He's a player with direct connections to our core. Remember when he and LeBron won a championship together in Cleveland? That wasn't just any championship. That was one of the most improbable comebacks in NBA Finals history, down 3-1 against a 73-win Warriors team. Kyrie hit one of the biggest shots in Finals history in that series. He knows how to play with LeBron. He understands how to operate alongside a ball-dominant superstar. That chemistry doesn't just disappear, but it gets even better. Kyrie also has history with Luka Doncic. They played together in Dallas, and while that partnership didn't result in a championship, anyone who watched them play together saw the potential. Two elite ball handlers who can create for themselves and others, who can take turns running the offense, who can both close games in crunch time. Now imagine that partnership, but with LeBron James added to the mix. Imagine the offensive versatility. Imagine the pick-and-roll combinations. Imagine the fourth quarter scenarios where you have three players on the floor who can get you a bucket whenever you need it. The numbers back this up too. Last season, before the injury, Kyrie was averaging 24.7 points per game. He was shooting 47% from the field and over 40% from three-point range. He was adding nearly 5 rebounds and 5 assists per game. This isn't a player who's declining. This is a player who was performing at an all-star level before the injury struck. And while ACL injuries are serious, we've seen countless players return from them and continue to perform at elite levels. Modern sports medicine has come a long way. The recovery protocols are more advanced than ever. There's every reason to believe that Kyrie can return and be the same player he was before the injury. So, what would a trade actually look like? Based on the assets we have and what Dallas might want in return, we're probably looking at a package centered around Rui Hachimura, Jared Vanderbilt, and Jake LaRavia, plus multiple first-round picks. That's not a small price to pay. Losing Rui would hurt, because he's been so solid in that starting lineup. But you have to ask yourself, would you rather have Rui Hachimura or Kyrie Irving when both are healthy? Would you rather have depth pieces or another legitimate superstar who can take over playoff games? The draft picks are always tough to part with because they represent future flexibility, but here's the reality. We're not rebuilding. We're not in a position where we need to worry about what the roster looks like 5 years from now. We have LeBron James right now. we have Luka Doncic right now? This is about winning championships in the present, not stockpiling assets for some theoretical future that may never come. You use those picks to acquire win-now talent, and Kyrie Irving, even with the injury concerns, represents exactly that type of talent. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, the injury. Kyrie is currently recovering from a torn ACL, and there's no concrete timeline for his return. That's a legitimate risk factor that can't be ignored. If we make this trade, we're essentially betting on his recovery, betting that he can return to form, betting that the medical staff's evaluation is accurate. But here's the thing about championship teams. They take calculated risks. They don't play it safe when an opportunity presents itself to significantly upgrade the roster. And acquiring Kyrie, even if he doesn't return until later in the season or even the playoffs, could be that difference maker we need. Think about the playoff rotation for a second. If Kyrie returns healthy, even if it's in March or April, you're talking about having LeBron James, Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, and Austin Reeves as your primary ball handlers and creators. That's an embarrassment of riches. That's the type of offensive firepower that can overcome any defensive scheme. You can't double-team everyone. You can't game plan against that much talent. Someone is always going to have an advantage. Someone is always going to be able to exploit the defense. The defensive end is where some concerns might arise, and that's fair. Kyrie has never been known as a lockdown defender. But in our system, with the pieces we have around him, that becomes less of an issue. We have defenders. We have length. What we need is someone who can get us a bucket when the offense stalls, someone who can create separation, someone who can hit big shots in big moments. That's Kyrie's specialty. That's what he's built his career on. There is also the question of whether Dallas would even be willing to make this trade. Reports have suggested that the Mavericks might want to hold on to Kyrie, despite their disappointing start to the season. They might view him as a key piece for the future, especially if they're planning to build around Cooper Flagg or other young talent. But here's the counterargument. If Dallas is serious about retooling, if they're serious about making changes to a roster that clearly isn't working in its current form, then moving Kyrie while he's injured but still has significant value makes sense. They'd be getting back rotation players who can contribute immediately, plus draft capital that can be used to continue building for the future. It's not an easy decision for them, but it's one that could make sense for both sides. From our perspective, this is about maximizing our championship window. This is about looking at the landscape of the Western Conference and asking ourselves honestly, are we good enough to beat a healthy Denver team in a 7-game series? Are we good enough to handle Phoenix if they get hot? Are we good enough to outlast Golden State or the Clippers in a playoff grind? Right now we're competitive with all of those teams, but competitive isn't enough. We need to be dominant. We need to be the team that other franchises fear. Adding Kyrie Irving, even with the injury concerns, moves us closer to that status. I want to be clear about something, though. This isn't about disrespecting the players we'd be trading away. Rui has been fantastic. Vanderbilt brings energy and toughness. LaRavia has potential, but championship teams make tough decisions. Championship teams prioritize star power and proven performance over depth and potential. And when you have the opportunity to add a player of Kyrie's caliber, a player who has won at the highest level, a player who has chemistry with your two best players, you have to seriously consider it. The timeline is also worth considering. Even if Kyrie doesn't return until late March or early April, that still gives him time to integrate into the system before the playoffs. It gives him time to build chemistry with the guys, to learn the sets, to understand the rotations. And having him available for a potential playoff run, even if he's not quite at 100%, is better than not having him at all. You're talking about adding a third closer, a third guy who can take and make big shots when everything is on the line. That's invaluable in the postseason. I've been thinking about this potential move nonstop, and the more I analyze it, the more excited I get about the possibilities. Imagine a closing lineup with LeBron, Luka, Kyrie, Austin, and Ayton. That's two legitimate playmakers who can run the offense. That's three guys who can create their own shot. That's enough shooting to keep defenses honest. That's size and rebounding with Ayton in the middle. That's a lineup that can compete with anyone in the league. And more importantly, that's a lineup built for playoff basketball, where everything slows down and half-court execution becomes paramount. The optimist in me, and I'm always an optimist when it comes to this team, sees this as the move that could define our season. We're already playing well. We're already exceeding expectations. But great teams don't settle for good enough. Great teams push the envelope. Great teams take swings when the opportunity presents itself. And if Rob Pelinka and the front office can pull off a trade for Kyrie Irving, even with the injury concerns, even with the assets we'd have to give up, I think we'd look back on it as the move that put us over the top. Of course, there are no guarantees in this league. Injuries happen. Chemistry can be unpredictable. Trades don't always work out the way you hope. But that's the nature of professional sports. You make the best decision you can with the information available, and you trust that your evaluation is correct. Everything I'm seeing tells me that Kyrie Irving, if healthy, makes us a better team. Everything I'm seeing tells me that the risk is worth the reward. Everything I'm seeing tells me that this is the type of move that championship teams make. So, here's where we are. The Lakers are sitting at 18-7, playing excellent basketball and looking like a legitimate threat in the Western Conference. The trade deadline is approaching, and opportunities are emerging across the league. Kyrie Irving, despite being injured, represents a potential target that could transform our roster from very good to truly elite. The cost would be significant, but the payoff could be a championship. And isn't that what this is all about? Isn't that why we watch every game, why we analyze every move, why we invest so much emotion into this team? We want to see banners hanging in the rafters. We want to see parades down Figueroa Street. We want to experience that championship feeling again. This is the type of move that generates debate, and I want to hear from you. What do you think about the possibility of trading for Kyrie Irving? Are you willing to part with Rui, Vanderbilt, LaRavia, and multiple first-round picks for a player who's currently injured but has proven championship pedigree? Do you think the risk is worth the potential reward? Do you believe that adding Kyrie to a core of LeBron and Luka creates an unstoppable force in the Western Conference? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because I read every single one, and I want to know where Lakers Nation stands on this potential blockbuster move. As we head toward the trade deadline, I'll be here breaking down every development, every rumor, every piece of information that comes across my desk. This is Lakers News Fan Report, your home for the most comprehensive coverage of our beloved team. If you enjoyed this breakdown, smash that like button. If you want to stay updated on all the latest news and analysis, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Share this with your fellow Lakers fans because this is a conversation we all need to be having. The championship window is open right now, and how we navigate the next few weeks could determine whether we're cutting down nets in June or wondering what could have been. I'll see you in the next one. Go Lakers!